They say justice is blind. But in one courtroom in Georgia, justice wasn't just blind, it was laughing. A 17-year-old black teenager stood before a judge for a crime he didn't commit. The courtroom chuckled. The judge smirked. And then, the teen said 7 words that silenced the room: "You might want to ask your brother." The case began on a rainy Tuesday in Atlanta, Georgia. Police had arrested Jamal Harris, a smart but misunderstood 17-year-old black teen, after a break-in at a local electronics store. He matched the description: black hoodie, 6 feet tall, slim. That was enough. Despite no fingerprints, no surveillance footage clearly identifying him, and no stolen items found in his possession, he was charged with burglary and resisting arrest. His mother, Tanya Harris, a night shift nurse, scrambled for a public defender. But they were overworked and disinterested. Jamal's plea for innocence was buried in paperwork. Jamal had always been in and out of trouble, not because he was bad, but because people around him expected him to be. The courtroom was quiet, except for the sound of raindrops tapping against the windows. The air was tense. Judge Robert Millstone, a man in his mid-60s, with silver hair and cold, sharp eyes, sat high on the bench. Known for his tough stance on crime, especially toward inner-city youth, he was already skeptical. When Jamal was brought in, handcuffed, the judge sighed and muttered under his breath, "Another one." Jamal heard him. Then the bailiff read the charges, and the prosecutor requested that Jamal be denied bail due to a history of community disruption. Judge Millstone stared at Jamal, then looked at the file, and chuckled. "You kids never learned," he said, not even hiding his smirk. "Let me guess, Daddy's not around?" The courtroom laughed. Even the stenographer tried to hide a smile. Jamal's face didn't change. But then he leaned forward and said, loud enough for the room to hear, "You might want to ask your brother about that." Silence. The judge blinked. "Excuse me?" Jamal looked him straight in the eye. "Ask your brother who my father is." The judge's face went pale. The judge called a brief recess. His hands trembled as he walked back to chambers and dialed a number. "It's happening," he whispered. "The boy knows." His younger brother, Richard Millstone, a prominent criminal defense attorney in New York, hadn't spoken to him in 18 years, not since a summer in Atlanta that the family never talked about. That summer, Richard had dated a woman named Tanya. But when she became pregnant, he disappeared. Robert had known. He had helped cover it up, paid Tanya to stay quiet, and buried the whole thing, hoping the child would never surface. Now, that child was standing in his courtroom. When the judge returned, he had changed. He didn't look at Jamal. He just ordered the public defender and prosecutor to approach the bench. "We're postponing this trial until further review," he said coldly. But Jamal didn't move. "Why, Your Honor?" he asked. "Scared I'll embarrass your family name?" The judge slammed the gavel. "One more word and I'll hold you in contempt." But the courtroom was already buzzing. Jamal's mother, Tanya, had walked in quietly during the exchange. She stood at the back, tears in her eyes, and nodded at her son. That night, the story went viral. A courtroom visitor had recorded the strange exchange and posted it online. Teen claims Judge S' brother is his father in shocking twist. Local news stations picked it up. Then national outlets. Under pressure, Richard Millstone flew to Atlanta and confirmed the truth: Jamal Harris was his son. He admitted he had fled responsibility out of fear that the child would damage his reputation and his career. But what shocked the public more was the judge's involvement. Emails surfaced showing that Judge Millstone had helped orchestrate a bribe to silence Tanya Harris years ago. Even worse, he had presided over 3 prior juvenile cases involving Jamal, never once disclosing the conflict of interest. Within weeks, the Georgia Judicial Commission launched a full investigation into Judge Millstone. Whistleblowers from the courthouse came forward. Secretaries revealed offhand comments the judge had made about that boy being trouble from birth. One even admitted hearing the judge say, "I should have made sure she moved out of state." It was clear, the judge had a personal vendetta and guilt. With all charges dropped, Jamal was released. But he wasn't done. Tanya, with the help of a civil rights attorney, filed a federal civil suit against both Richard and Robert Millstone for paternity fraud, judicial misconduct, and racial bias in the courtroom. Emails, bank transfers, witness testimony. The evidence was overwhelming. The judge resigned under public pressure, and Richard Millstone lost his license to practice law. 2 years later, Jamal stood on a college stage, receiving a full scholarship from Howard University, funded by a nonprofit created in his name to fight judicial corruption and support teens wrongfully accused. In his speech, Jamal said, "They laughed at me. They saw a stereotype. But truth has a voice. And sometimes, that voice sits in the same courtroom as the lie." He never reconciled with his father. Richard tried to reach out, but Jamal never answered. As for Judge Millstone, he now lives alone in a small house in rural Georgia. He hasn't been seen in public in over a year. And every time someone mentions that courtroom video, he closes his blinds. Because now he's the one hiding. They thought he was just another kid from the streets. But secrets always find the light. And in this courtroom, justice didn't just get served. It got exposed.